In the skies over the Pacific and Europe between 1941 and 1945, a handful of American fighter pilots turned the tide of air warfare. Their names are etched into history not by chance or luck, but by sheer determination, skill, and the cold precision of confirmed aerial victories. Across those 4 brutal years, more than 1,400 U.S. fighter pilots earned ace status 5 or more confirmed kills, but only 5 reached heights so extraordinary that their records still stand as benchmarks of aerial combat excellence. Together, these 5 men accounted for 168 confirmed enemy aircraft destroyed. That number isn't speculation or wartime propaganda. It comes from declassified mission reports, gun camera footage, witness statements, and post-war analysis by the U.S. Army Air Forces, Navy, and Marine Corps. These were not just pilots who survived dogfights, they were the ones who sought out the enemy, closed the distance, and delivered decisive blows that weakened entire air forces. What makes their stories remarkable isn't Hollywood drama or personal myth-making. It's the quiet accumulation of kills under impossible conditions, long-range patrols over vast oceans, bomber escorts through flak-filled skies, carrier-based intercepts against overwhelming odds. One of them flew as a volunteer mercenary before America even entered the war. Another became the Navy's highest-scoring ace by ignoring orders to stay on the deck. 2 raced each other for the title of America's top ace, one reaching it and the other dying in the attempt. A third, almost washed out of flight school, went on to become an ace in 2 wars. This countdown honors them in reverse order from 5th to 1st based solely on confirmed aerial victories in World War II. We're not ranking bravery, leadership, or moral character. We're measuring the documented impact they had on the enemy's ability to fight in the air. Along the way, we'll explore the aircraft they flew, the tactics they perfected, the strategic context of their victories, and the lasting legacy they left for the modern U.S. Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps. These men didn't just win dogfights. They helped secure air superiority that made D-Day possible in Europe, protected the fleet in the Pacific, and paved the way for Allied victory. Their records remain unbroken among American pilots to this day. Let's begin. To truly appreciate what these 5 pilots accomplished, it helps to step back and look at the bigger picture of aerial combat during World War II. The war in the air wasn't a single theater with uniform rules, it was 2 very different campaigns that demanded entirely different skills, aircraft, and levels of endurance. In the European Theater of Operations, ETO, American fighter pilots primarily flew escort missions for heavy bombers like the B-17 Flying Fortress and B-24 Liberator. These raids targeted German industry, airfields, and oil refineries deep inside the Reich. The Luftwaffe's response was ferocious, Messerschmitt Bf 109 seconds and Focke-Wulf Foe 190 seconds fast. Heavily armed fighters with excellent roll rates and armor protection intercepted in large numbers. Flak was thick over targets, and pilots had to navigate long distances, often in poor weather, while staying close to protect the bombers. Survival here meant mastering energy fighting, conserving fuel, and making every shot count at ranges where a single burst could be decisive. The enemy was disciplined and well-equipped, but the Allies had superior numbers and better long-range escort fighters like the P-51 Mustang by mid-1944. Across the vast Pacific theater, the story was different. Here, the Imperial Japanese Navy and Army Air Forces flew agile, lightweight fighters like the Mitsubishi A6M0 and Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar. These planes were incredibly maneuverable at low speeds, with long range and excellent climb rates, but they lacked armor and self-sealing fuel tanks, making them vulnerable once hit. American pilots flew from island bases, aircraft carriers, or forward airstrips, often on patrols that stretched hundreds of miles over open ocean. Navigation was a constant challenge, weather could turn deadly, and ditching at sea or becoming a prisoner of war carried far greater risks. The Japanese Air Forces started the war strong, but by 1944, attrition, poor replacement training, and fuel shortages had eroded their effectiveness. This created more opportunities for American aces to rack up high scores, especially in defensive intercepts and fighter sweeps over Japanese-held islands. These differences explain why the top scores are concentrated in the Pacific. In Europe, the highest American ace tallied 28 confirmed victories. In the Pacific, the numbers climbed much higher because pilots flew more missions against a foe that became increasingly outnumbered and outmatched. Yet every theater demanded the same core qualities: exceptional situational awareness, precise gunnery, aggressive yet disciplined flying, and the ability to stay alive long enough to keep fighting. The 168 confirmed kills credited to these 5 men represent a small but outsized fraction of the total enemy aircraft destroyed by US fighters, thousands in all. Their victories didn't just add to statistics. They disrupted enemy formations, protected bombers and carriers, and eroded the Axis' ability to contest the skies. In the Pacific, they helped secure the island hopping campaign that brought American forces within range of Japan itself. In Europe, they ensured that the Luftwaffe could no longer prevent Allied air supremacy over Normandy and beyond. What follows is their story, told in reverse order of their confirmed World War II scores. We'll examine the aircraft they mastered, the tactics they developed, the missions that defined them, and the legacies that endure in today's U.S. military aviation. These were not flawless men, but they were extraordinary pilots whose cumulative impact helped win the war in the air. Let's meet them, beginning with number 5. We begin with the 5th highest scoring American fighter pilot of World War II, Colonel Gregory "Pappy" Boyington, credited with 28 confirmed aerial victories. His total is split across 2 distinct phases of his wartime service, one before the United States officially entered the conflict, and the other after he rejoined the fight as a Marine Corps officer. Boyington's path to becoming an ace was unconventional from the start. Born in 1,912 inches, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, he grew up in a working-class family and developed an early fascination with aviation. He joined the Marine Corps in 1938 after earning a degree in aeronautical engineering from the University of Washington. By the late 1930s, he had already earned his wings and served as a flight instructor, but financial pressures and personal frustrations led him to resign his commission in 1941. At that moment, the United States was still neutral, but the war in China against Japanese aggression had been raging for years. Boyington saw an opportunity to fight and to earn money in the American Volunteer Group, better known as the Flying Tigers, organized under the leadership of retired U.S. Army Air Corps officer Claire Lee Chennault. The AVG was a unique mercenary unit funded by the Chinese government with tacit approval from President Roosevelt. Pilots were paid a salary plus a bounty of $500 for each confirmed Japanese aircraft, destroyed legalized combat pay in a time when America was not yet at war. Boyington flew the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, a rugged, heavily armed fighter with distinctive shark-mouth nose art that became iconic. In the skies over Burma and southern China from late 1941 to mid-1942, Boyington claimed 6 confirmed victories against Japanese Army and Navy aircraft. These were not easy kills. The Japanese Ki-27 Nate and Ki-43 Oscar fighters were agile, and the P-40's strengths lay in dive and zoom attacks rather than prolonged turning dogfights. Boyington learned quickly how to use altitude and speed to his advantage, diving from above, firing short, accurate bursts with the Warhawk's 6.50 caliber machine guns, and climbing away before the enemy could respond. When the AVG disbanded in July 1942, absorbed into the U.S. Army Air Forces, Boyington returned to active duty in the Marine Corps, bringing with him valuable combat experience against Japanese tactics and aircraft. By September 1943, Boyington was back in the fight, now commanding Marine Fighter Squadron 214, known as the Black Sheep Squadron, in the Solomon Islands campaign. The unit was formed from a mix of experienced pilots and green replacements, and Boyington, then 31 years old and a decade older than many of his men, earned the nickname Pappy from them. He turned the squadron into a cohesive, aggressive fighting force despite limited resources and constant combat pressure. They flew the Vought F-4U Corsair, a powerful fighter with excellent speed, climb rate, and firepower, perfectly suited to the Pacific's long-range missions. Boyington's leadership emphasized simplicity and survival. Gain altitude advantage, attack from above and behind, close to point-blank range for maximum effect, and never try to outturn a zero. He drilled his pilots to maintain energy, avoid low-speed maneuvering, and support one another in the air. Over the next 4 months, from September 1943 to January 1944, Boyington personally scored 22 confirmed victories, mostly against Zero fighters and Val dive bombers, bringing his total to 28. On the 3rd of January 1944, he tied Eddie Rickenbacker's World War I record of 26 kills, counting his AVG victories, then added 2 more that same day. Tragically, on that same mission over Rabaul, Boyington's Corsair was hit by ground fire or enemy aircraft. His wingman saw the plane crash into the water, and the Marines initially listed him as killed in action. In reality, he was rescued by a Japanese submarine and spent the next 20 months as a prisoner of war. Held in camps including Rabaul and later Amori near Tokyo, He endured beatings, starvation, and isolation, yet survived until liberation in August 1945. While in captivity, he was awarded the Medal of Honor in absentia for his combat leadership and aerial victories. Boyington's post-war life was challenging. He struggled with alcohol and wrote a memoir, Bar Bar Black Sheep. That became the basis for a popular 1970s television series, but his wartime record remains a testament to adaptability and raw talent. The Black Sheep Squadron's legacy endures in the Marine Corps today, with VMF 214 still an active F-35B unit carrying the same nickname and insignia. Boyington showed that even unconventional paths, mercenary service, personal struggles, command of a misfit squadron could produce extraordinary results when paired with combat skill and determination. His 28 confirmed victories place him fifth on this list, but they represent far more than a number. They mark the transition from pre-war volunteer action to full American involvement in the Pacific, and they highlight the importance of experienced pilots in building effective units under pressure. Next, we move to number 4, a man who nearly washed out of flight training, yet went on to become the leading American ace in the European theatre and an ace again in a later war. Next on our list is Colonel Francis Stanley Gabreski, credited with 28 confirmed aerial victories during World War II, making him the highest-scoring American ace in the European theatre of operations. His story stands out not only for the number of kills, but for the remarkable perseverance that turned a near failure in flight school into one of the most consistent and respected combat records of the war. Gabreski was born in 1,919 inches, Oil City, Pennsylvania, to Polish immigrant parents who ran a small grocery store. When Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, the news hit close to home. The country his family had left behind was being overrun, and the personal stakes were immediate. Gabreski enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Corps in 1940, determined to fight in the air. But his early training at what is now Moody Air Force Base in Georgia was rocky. His instructor told him he lacked the natural touch for flying and recommended washing him out. Gabreski refused to quit. He worked harder, mastered the basics, and eventually earned his wings in 1941. When the United States entered the war, Gabreski volunteered for a unique assignment. In early 1943, he requested attachment to a Polish fighter squadron operating under the Royal Air Force in Great Britain. These were veterans of the Battle of Britain. Many had fought in the Polish Air Force in 1939, then escaped to continue the fight in France and England. Flying Spitfires, Gabreski flew dozens of operational sorties alongside these experienced pilots. He didn't score any confirmed victories during this period, but the experience was invaluable. He learned from men who had already survived years of combat against the Luftwaffe, the importance of situational awareness, the value of disciplined radio calls, and the necessity of staying calm under pressure. That knowledge would pay dividends when he joined an American unit. In February 1943, Gabreski transferred to the 56th Fighter Group, the Wolf Pack, flying the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt out of Halesworth, England. The Thunderbolt was a massive, rugged fighter, heavily armored, with a powerful radial engine and 8 .50 caliber machine guns. It could absorb punishment that would down lighter aircraft, but it required aggressive flying to overcome its initial disadvantage in turn rate against German fighters. Gabreski arrived as an outsider. He hadn't trained with the group, and his promotion to squadron commander ahead of some senior pilots created tension. His response was simple. He started producing results. Gabreski's signature tactic became known as the close kill. While many pilots opened fire at 400 yards or more, Gabreski waited until he was inside 100 yards, sometimes as close as 50, before squeezing the trigger. At that range, the Thunderbolt's concentrated firepower was devastating. He didn't need pinpoint accuracy, just proximity. His first victory came on the 24th of August 1943, when he downed a Focke-Wulf W190 during a bomber escort mission. From there, his score climbed steadily. On the 26th of November 1943, he earned the Distinguished Service Cross for a mission over Oldenburg, Germany. Leading his squadron against Messerschmitt Bf 110 seconds, he attacked the lead aircraft from dead astern, firing short bursts until it exploded. Debris struck his canopy and wings, but Gabreski climbed back into the fight and claimed a second Bf 110. His aggressive style earned him and fellow aces Hub Zemke and David Schilling the informal nickname the Terrible Three within the 56th Fighter Group. By the 5th of July 1944, Gabreski had reached 28 confirmed victories, all against German fighters and bombers across 166 combat missions. He was the top American ace in Europe at that point and was scheduled to rotate home. But on July 20, he volunteered for one last mission, a low-level strafing attack on an airfield near Koblenz. Flying too low, his propeller clipped the ground. The Thunderbolt cartwheeled across a field, and Gabreski survived the crash with minor injuries. He evaded capture for 5 days before being taken prisoner and spent the rest of the war in Stalag Luft I on the Baltic Sea. Gabreski's World War II record was impressive, but it was only half the story. In 1951, during the Korean War, he returned to combat flying the North American F-86 Sabre against MiG-15 seconds over the Yalu River. He added 5 confirmed victories, becoming one of only 7 American pilots to achieve ace status in 2 wars. His total of 34.5 kills across conflicts remains one of the highest for any U.S. fighter pilot in the jet age transition. Gabreski retired as a colonel in 1967 after a 26-year career that included command roles and test pilot duties. He passed away in 2002 at age 83. His legacy lives on in the Air Force as a symbol of persistence and adaptability, the man who almost didn't make it through training, yet became the leading ace in Europe and proved his skills again in Korea. The P-47 Thunderbolt he flew helped establish the U.S. Army Air Force's dominance over the continent, and his close-range tactics influenced generations of fighter pilots who understood that in air combat, closing the distance often meant closing the fight. Now we turn to number 3. A Navy commander who achieved something almost unprecedented in aerial warfare, becoming an ace in a single day not once, but twice, and whose single mission score remains a U.S. record. Number 3 on the list is Commander David McCampbell, the U.S. Navy's highest-scoring ace of World War II, with 34 confirmed aerial victories, all achieved in the Pacific Theater. What sets McCampbell apart is not only the total, but the extraordinary efficiency and concentration of his kills. He remains the only American pilot to become an ace in a single day twice, and his record of 9 victories in one sortie stands as the highest single-mission tally for any U.S. fighter pilot in the war. McCampbell's path to combat was indirect. Born in Bessemer, Alabama, in 1910, he graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1933 and initially served as a landing signal officer, the officer on the carrier deck who used paddles to guide aircraft safely aboard. It was a critical but non-flying role, and when the USS Wasp was sunk by Japanese torpedoes off Guadalcanal in September 1942, McCampbell survived the disaster and was sent stateside to train other LSOs. Many would have welcomed the relative safety, but McCampbell requested a return to flying duty. In September 1943, at age 33, he took command of Fighter Squadron 15VF-15 and began preparing the unit for carrier operations aboard the newly commissioned Essex-class carrier USS Essex. The aircraft he and his pilots flew was the Grumman F-6F Hellcat, designed specifically to counter the Japanese Zero. The Hellcat was larger, faster in a dive, more heavily armored, and equipped with 6 50-caliber machine guns, making it rugged and forgiving in combat. Its radar-directed intercepts and superior climb rate at altitude gave American naval aviators a decisive edge, especially against the lighter, less protected Japanese fighters. McCampbell emphasized disciplined teamwork, altitude discipline, and the Thatch Weave, a mutual support tactic developed by Lieutenant Commander John Thatch that allowed pairs of Hellcats to protect each other during engagements. McCampbell's first extraordinary day came during the Battle of the Philippine Sea on the 19th of June, 1944, the largest carrier battle in history, later nicknamed the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot by American pilots. Japanese aircraft launched in waves against the U.S. fleet, but Hellcats and anti-aircraft fire decimated them. McCampbell took off twice that day. In the morning, he intercepted a formation of Judy dive bombers and shot down 5 in the space of 9 minutes each kill, confirmed by gun camera film and wingman reports. Later that afternoon, over Guam, he added 2 more zeros, bringing his single-day total to 7. Becoming an ace in a day is rare. Doing it twice in the same conflict is unique in American aviation history. His most legendary mission occurred during the Battle of Leyte Gulf on the 24th of October 1944, the largest naval battle ever fought. Early that morning, radar detected a large Japanese strike force, approximately 60 aircraft inbound toward the American carriers. Rear Admiral Frederick Sherman had ordered McCampbell, as Air Group Commander, to stay aboard Essex and coordinate rather than fly combat sorties. With only 7 Hellcats ready for launch, McCampbell ignored the restriction, climbed into his cockpit, and led the small group into the fight. Joined initially by his wingman, Lieutenant Junior Grade Roy Rushing, McCampbell engaged the leading Japanese formation. For the next several minutes, the 2 pilots tore through the enemy planes in repeated passes. McCampbell methodically closed to point-blank range, firing controlled bursts that sent 9 aircraft down in flames, 4 Zeros, 3 Vals, and 2 Oscars, while Rushing claimed 6 more. Together, they destroyed 15 enemy planes before the attack could reach the fleet. McCampbell's Hellcat returned with nearly empty guns and critically low fuel. He diverted to the USS Langley because Essex's deck was fouled. The engagement helped break up the Japanese strike and contributed to the overall American victory at Leyte Gulf, where the Imperial Japanese Navy suffered irreparable losses. Air Group 15, under McCampbell's command, ultimately destroyed 315 enemy aircraft in aerial combat and another 348 on the ground, more than any other Navy air group in the Pacific. McCampbell's 34 confirmed kills came across fewer than 100 combat missions, giving him one of the highest kill-per-mission ratios of any American ace. He survived the war and retired as a captain in 1964 after a distinguished career that included command of carriers and shore establishments. The destroyer USS McCampbell, DDG-8, was named in his honor in 1962, a fitting tribute to a man who exemplified calm leadership under overwhelming odds. McCampbell's record demonstrates the power of the right aircraft, the right tactics, and the right mindset at the right moment. The Hellcat's design, combined with disciplined carrier-based operations, allowed pilots like him to turn defensive intercepts into decisive offensive actions. His willingness to lead from the front, despite orders to stay back, saved lives and shifted the momentum of one of the war's pivotal battles. Now we move to number 2. A young major whose relentless pursuit of aerial supremacy brought him within 2 kills of the all-time American record, only to end in tragedy just as victory seemed within reach. Number 2 belongs to Major Thomas Buchanan, McGuire Jr., credited with 38 confirmed aerial victories, all in the Pacific Theater, making him the second highest-scoring American fighter pilot of World War II. His record is inseparable from a fierce, personal rivalry with the man who held the top spot, Richard Bong. McGuire's relentless drive to surpass that mark pushed him to extraordinary heights, but it also led to his death in combat just 2 kills short of the record. McGuire was born in 1,920 inches, Sebring, Florida, and grew up with a passion for aviation that led him to study aeronautical engineering at the Georgia Institute of Technology. He enlisted as an aviation cadet in 1941, just months before Pearl Harbor, and earned his wings in 1942. By August 1943, he was in New Guinea with the 475th Fighter Group, flying the Lockheed P-38 Lightning, one of the most capable twin-engine fighters of the war. The Lightning's twin booms, powerful Allison engines, and concentrated nose-mounted armament, 4 50-caliber machine guns and 120mm cannon, gave it exceptional speed, climb rate, and firepower. It was ideal for the long over-water patrols and high-altitude intercepts that defined the Southwest Pacific campaign. McGuire achieved ace status in just 2 days of intense combat. On August 18 and 19, 1943, while flying top cover for bombers attacking WWII, his formation was ambushed by Japanese fighters. He shot down 3 aircraft the first day, 2 Nakajima Ki-43 Oscars and a Kawasaki Ki-61 Tony, then added 2 more the next day near the same area. 5 kills in 48 hours marked him as an immediate threat to Japanese air operations. From that point, McGuire flew with controlled aggression. He named his P-38 Pudgy after his wife Marilyn, painting her name on the nose, and treated every mission as an opportunity to close the gap on his rival. The competition with Bong was real, and widely known newspaper reports tracked their scores, and both men were aware of the other's tally. Yet it was a rivalry of mutual respect rather than bitterness. Both were professional officers who understood the stakes. One episode that illustrates McGuire's character came in July 1944 when Charles Lindbergh arrived in the Pacific as a civilian technical advisor for Lockheed. The famous aviator wanted to observe combat operations firsthand. McGuire, then a squadron commander, treated Lindbergh like any new pilot, assigning him routine wingman duties and insisting he follow standard procedures. Lindbergh flew several missions with McGuire's unit, and though he was not officially authorized to engage the enemy, he shot down a Japanese aircraft during one sortie. McGuire's no-nonsense approach underscored his focus on discipline and mission success over celebrity. By December 1944, McGuire had reached 38 confirmed victories. Bong was at 40. On Christmas Day, 1944, McGuire led a squadron of 15 P-38 seconds on a mission over Luzon in the Philippines. His formation was attacked by 20 aggressive Japanese fighters. In the ensuing dogfight, McGuire repeatedly dove to aid outnumbered comrades, driving off attackers while himself under heavy fire. His guns jammed at one point, but he continued to maneuver aggressively, forcing an enemy plane into his wingman's line of sight. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for that day's actions, one of only 2 fighter pilots to receive the decoration posthumously in the Pacific. The next day, he added 4 more kills in a single engagement, bringing his total to 38. 2 more would tie Bong. 3 would make him America's ace of aces. On the 7th of January 1945, McGuire led a volunteer fighter sweep over Negros Island. The mission was intended as a routine patrol, but they spotted a lone Japanese Oscar near Fabrica Airfield. As McGuire maneuvered to engage, another enemy aircraft appeared. In a low-altitude turn to support a squadron mate, his P-38, still carrying external drop tanks, stalled. The aircraft flipped and crashed into the ground. Major Thomas McGuire, aged 24, was killed instantly. His death came just 2 kills short of the record he had chased so doggedly. The Medal of Honor was awarded posthumously, presented to his widow Marilyn. McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey bears his name, and his legacy endures as a reminder of the fine line between ambition and overreach in aerial combat. The P-38's handling characteristics at low altitude with drop tanks were known risks, and McGuire's accident became a case study in fighter training for years afterward. McGuire's 38 victories reflect not only skill but an unrelenting commitment to the fight. He flew more than 200 combat missions, often volunteering for extra sorties, and his record helped maintain pressure on Japanese air forces during the critical campaigns in New Guinea and the Philippines. His story is one of determination, camaraderie, and the ultimate price paid in pursuit of excellence. Finally, we reach number 1. The man who set the standard that no other American pilot has matched in any war, the undisputed ace of aces with 40 confirmed victories. At the pinnacle of this list stands Major Richard Ira Bong, the undisputed American ace of aces in World War II, with 40 confirmed aerial victories all achieved in the Pacific theater. No other U.S. pilot in any conflict has matched or exceeded that number. Bong's record is a testament to consistent performance over hundreds of combat hours, exceptional nerve in close-range engagements, and the ability to survive prolonged exposure to danger in one of the most demanding air campaigns of the war. Bong was born in 1920 on a small farm near Poplar, Wisconsin, the eldest of 9 children in a Swedish-American family. Planes flying low over the family fields sparked his lifelong fascination with aviation. He soloed in a civilian biplane before enlisting in the Army Air Corps in 1941 and earned his wings in 1942. Early in his career, Bong displayed the bold, almost reckless confidence that would define him. While stationed at Hamilton Field near San Francisco, he famously flew his P-38 Lightning under the Golden Gate Bridge and buzzed low over Market Street, scattering laundry from a woman's clothesline in Oakland. General George Kenney, commander of the 5th Air Force, summoned him for discipline. Instead of punishment, Kenney gave him a choice: apologize and help the woman rehang her laundry or face charges. Bong chose the former, and Kenney later remarked that he wouldn't want a pilot who lacked the nerve to fly down Market Street in his command. Kenney handpicked Bong for the Pacific in September 1942 as one of the first P-38 pilots to deploy to New Guinea. The Lockheed P-38 Lightning proved an ideal mount for Bong. Its twin engines provided redundancy over long ocean flights. Its speed and climb rate allowed it to dictate terms in engagements, and its concentrated nose armament, 4 .50 caliber machine guns and a 20mm cannon delivered devastating firepower at close range. Bong admitted he was not a naturally gifted long-range marksman, so he compensated by closing to point-blank distance before firing. His technique was straightforward: get behind the target, maintain energy, close to within 50-100 yards, and fire short, accurate bursts until the enemy aircraft disintegrated or caught fire. Bong scored his first 2 victories on the 27th of December 1942, over Buna, New Guinea, a Mitsubishi A-6M0 and a Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar. From there, his tally rose rapidly. By September 1943, he had 28 confirmed kills, surpassing Eddie Rickenbacker's World War I record of 26. On the 12th of April 1944, he added his 26th and 27th victories, officially breaking the record and becoming the first American pilot to do so in World War II. Promoted to Major, he was sent home for a war bond tour and publicity duties, but the pull of combat was too strong. He returned to the Pacific in September 1944, officially as a gunnery instructor with orders not to fly operational missions. Kenney's directive was clear: Bong's value as a symbol outweighed further risk. Yet Bong volunteered for additional sorties, flying another 30 missions and adding 12 more kills to reach exactly 40 by December 1944. His Medal of Honor citation highlights this voluntary commitment. Though assigned to duty as gunnery instructor and neither required nor expected to perform combat duty, Major Bong voluntarily, and at his own urgent request, engaged in repeated combat missions, including unusually hazardous sorties. Over 200 combat missions and more than 500 combat hours, Bong maintained an extraordinary kill-per-mission ratio while mentoring younger pilots and helping refine 5th Air Force tactics against Japanese aircraft. His victories came against a range of opponents: Zeros, Oscars, Tonys, Vals, and Kates, often in outnumbered or chaotic conditions, contributing directly to air superiority in New Guinea, the Philippines, and Borneo. Bong returned to the United States in early 1945, married his fiancée Marge Vattendahl, whose likeness he had painted on his P-38, and transitioned to test flying the new Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star jet at Lockheed's Burbank facility. On the 6th of August 1945, the same day the atomic bomb fell on Hiroshima, Bong took off for a routine acceptance flight. During takeoff, he failed to activate the auxiliary fuel pump, a critical step for the jet engine during climb-out. The engine flamed out at low altitude, and Bong was too low for a successful ejection. The parachute did not deploy. America's greatest ace died at age 24 from a simple procedural error, just as the war reached its end. Bong's legacy endures in multiple ways. The Richard I, Bong Veterans Historical Center in Superior, Wisconsin, preserves his memorabilia and educates visitors on his career. The Bong Bridge connects Wisconsin and Minnesota across the street, Louis Bay, and his name is synonymous with aerial excellence in U.S. Air Force training. His 40 victories remain the benchmark for American fighter pilots, a record set in an era of propeller-driven aircraft against determined but ultimately outmatched opponents. With Bong's tally, we complete the countdown. Boyington with 28, Gabreski with 28, McCampbell with 34, Maguire with 38, and Bong with 40, totaling 168 confirmed enemy aircraft destroyed by these 5 extraordinary men. Their combined impact was profound. They disrupted Japanese and German air operations, protected Allied fleets and bombers, and helped secure the air dominance that made victory possible across 2 theaters. These were not just numbers, they represented lives saved, missions accomplished, and a new standard for what American air power could achieve. We have now followed the journeys of 5 extraordinary American fighter pilots whose confirmed aerial victories in World War II totaled 168 enemy aircraft destroyed: Gregory Pappy Boyington with 28, Francis Gabby Gabreski with 28 inches Europe plus 6.5 more in Korea, David McCampbell with 34, Thomas Maguire with 38, and Richard Bong with 40. These numbers are not mere statistics, they represent a profound contribution to Allied victory in the air, achieved through skill, courage, and the relentless application of tactics tailored to the machines and enemies they faced. Consider the differences in efficiency and context that make these achievements even more remarkable. David McCampbell's 34 kills came across fewer than 100 combat missions, yielding one of the highest kill-per-mission ratios in American history. His single mission record of 9 victories remains unmatched for U.S. pilots, and his actions at Leyte Gulf helped shatter a massive Japanese strike force. Preserving carrier task forces critical to the final push toward Japan. Richard Bong's 40 victories, spread over more than 200 missions and 500 combat hours, reflect sustained excellence in a theater where long patrols over enemy-held waters carried constant risk of mechanical failure, weather, or capture. Thomas Maguire's 38 kills show the power of focused aggression and mentorship, even as he flew with the pressure of a public rivalry. Gabreski's 28 inches Europe against a more technically advanced and disciplined Luftwaffe highlight the value of close-range precision and durability in the Thunderbolt, while his later Korean War record proves the adaptability of lessons learned in propeller-driven combat to the jet age. Boyington's 28, split between mercenary service with the Flying Tigers and command of the Black Sheep Squadron, demonstrate how prior combat experience could transform a ragtag unit into a highly effective force in the brutal Solomon Islands campaign. These 5 men operated in very different environments, yet common threads emerge. Mastery of their aircraft strengths, the P-38 Lightning's speed and firepower, the F-6F Hellcat's ruggedness and radar integration, the P-47 Thunderbolt's ability to absorb damage, the F-4U Corsair's climb and dive performance, and a shared commitment to energy fighting principles: gain altitude, attack from above, close the range, and exit decisively. They flew in an era before guided missiles, when success depended on visual acquisition, gunnery skill, and split-second decisions. Their victories helped shift air superiority decisively. In the Pacific, they eroded Japanese naval aviation to the point where kamikaze tactics became a desperate measure. In Europe, They ensured bombers could reach targets with acceptable losses, paving the way for the strategic bombing campaign and D-Day air cover. Beyond the war, their legacies shaped modern U.S. military aviation. The tactics they refined, boom and zoom, mutual support weaves, disciplined altitude management, became foundational in fighter training. Aircraft design evolved to incorporate the lessons of their machines. Greater speed, better armor, concentrated armament, and longer range. Names like McGuire Air Force Base, the USS McCampbell, the Richard I, Bong Veterans Historical Center, and the continuing use of Black Sheep in Marine Fighter Squadron 214 keep their memory alive. They represent the transition from World War II's propeller-driven dogfights to the jet age, influencing everything from Vietnam-era Phantoms to today's F-35 seconds. These pilots were not superhuman. They were young men, most in their 20s, facing exhaustion, fear, mechanical unreliability, and the ever-present possibility of death or captivity. Yet they rose to the occasion, again and again, protecting their comrades, saving Allied lives, and hastening the end of the war. In doing so, they set a standard of aerial excellence that has never been surpassed among American fighter pilots. Their story reminds us that air superiority is not a given. It is earned through the cumulative efforts of individuals who fly, fight, and sometimes fall in the pursuit of it. 8 decades later, as new generations take to the skies, the record of these 5 men still inspires. 168 enemy aircraft confirmed destroyed, 5 lives dedicated to the defense of freedom, and a legacy that continues to soar. If this account has deepened your appreciation for the men who won the war in the air, consider liking the video and subscribing for more deep dives into military history, forgotten battles, key figures, and the lessons that still matter today. In the comments, share your thoughts. Do you think the ranking should be adjusted for efficiency or theater difficulty? Who else belongs in a similar conversation? Where are you watching from? Your engagement helps bring more of these stories to light. Thank you for watching. These pilots and all who served deserve to be remembered for the real impact they had in the cockpit, not just the myths that grew around them. Until next time, keep looking up.